Support for this program is provided by Roy O. Martin. Based in Alexandria, wood products company Roy O. Martin is proud to fulfill our founder's legacy in supporting the social, educational, and cultural needs of our local communities. Learn more at royomartin.com. The Louisiana Lottery is proud to join LPB in honoring Louisiana legends. Contributing over $4 billion for K-12 public education, the lottery is giving Louisiana a reason to smile. And by Willis-Knighton Health System, caring for our patients and communities for 97 years, with technologies for health and wellness, heart, cancer, orthopedics, birthing, and more. Willis-Knighton, always here. And by Acadian Companies and Acadian Ambulance Service, celebrating 50 years of saving and protecting lives in Louisiana. Information at acadian.com. With additional support from the Doré Family Foundation Fund, Scotty Moran, and Richard and Elaine Zuschlag.
Hello, I'm John Dennison, and welcome to Louisiana Legends. Today I'm sitting down with 2021 legend Dr. Terry King on his ranch. There's a lot more to see, but first, let's take a look at Terry's biography. On his many visits to an uncle in Shreveport, Terry King, a young country boy raised in the Texas flatlands, fell in love with the lush rolling hills of North Louisiana. Terry and his brother Richard grew up on a ranch in Texas. Their parents, Marjorie and Dean King, valued hard work and taught their sons to appreciate a job well done. Terry played summer baseball and was a member of the track team at his high school, where teachers voted him outstanding senior boy. While pursuing a Master of Arts degree at the University of Texas, he decided to enter the university's medical school, and in only 2 years and 9 months he obtained a medical degree. He completed his postgraduate work in Pediatrics and Pediatric Cardiology at Duke University. During his time as an Air Force major, Terry's skills as a practitioner and in the cath lab were refined. Although no one agreed with him, he felt he could close holes in the heart with a catheter rather than performing open heart surgery. In 1972, Dr. King left the Air Force, joined the Ochsner Clinic, and worked with 3 incredible surgeons, Drs. Alton and John Ochsner, and Dr. Noel Mills. It was Dr. Mills, a cardiovascular surgeon, who agreed that closing holes without surgery was possible, and the two invented the King-Mills cardiac umbrella. In 1975, Dr. King was the first person in the world to successfully close an atrial septal defect in a human.
He's personally performed this procedure on hundreds, if not thousands, of young children, babies. That technique has been used worldwide, so multiply that, and I don't know what kind of numbers you have, but it's going to be in the thousands and tens of thousands.
He spent a lot of time at the hospital taking care of very sick kids. We were just in awe of what things he would tell us he would be doing at times. You know, hearts being outside of little babies' bodies and having to put those back in. So God gave him that talent to do that.
I met Dr. King in about 1972 when our oldest daughter was an infant, and we were referred to him because she had a hole in her heart. He told us that it would have to be fixed, but we had to wait until she was 5 years old to be able to do the surgery and close it. It took me a little while to process what he had said, and I realized that he had carried us through those first few hours so well and able to make us feel comfortable with what we had facing us.
Terry has dedicated his life to taking care of children and educating others to do so, and he has always cared for the less fortunate in the state.
My father likes to take care of people. So he's always willing to help. And every time somebody needs money for medicine, he's always pulling money out and giving that to them. He's just a kind person, and his philosophy of life is just try to treat everybody like you would want to be treated.
Terry moved to North Louisiana in 1978 and opened the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at St. Francis Medical Center. Next came the Catheterization Lab and Pediatric Intensive Care Unit. Keeping families with sick children close together was important to Terry.
He and Alex George and Steve Ronstrom started Ronald McDonald House, and to this day, that was back in the 70s. And to this day, people can take advantage of having a place to be close to the hospital.
And while maintaining his practice in North Louisiana, he spent 7 years building the West Jefferson Medical Center. And he is also an entrepreneur. In 1978, he started Kingsland Ranch in West Washita Parish, which, with the help of his sons, has grown to an 850-acre cattle ranch.
Terry's contributions economically with his entrepreneurial, his restaurant business, his ranch business, other businesses that he's involved in, pretty astounding for someone who has a tremendously full medical schedule.
Terry and his wife Nancy have 5 wonderful children and 15 picture-perfect grandchildren. They can often be found fishing off a dock at Lake Claiborne.
I love my father. He's worked so hard. He's always thinking about how he can make things better for everybody around him. Just tickled to death to be his son.
Terry, it's good to sit down with you again today and good to see you again.
John, thank you, and I'm glad you're here. I've enjoyed our relationship a great deal.
Well, we're sitting here on this beautiful large piece of property. Tell us about the ranch here.
Well, it's an 850-acre operational ranch, and we raise naturally raised beef, and we sell it, we package it, we sell it to a number of stores. And I grew up on a ranch, as you know, years ago in the flatlands of Texas, and I always wanted a rolling hill ranch, and I finally have it now here in North Louisiana.
So you came to Shreveport and you saw those rolling hills there over in northwest Louisiana. You just went a little further east.
Yes, yes.
I'm glad you found it.
Yes.
Well, speaking of growing up in Texas and coming and visiting here, what was your childhood like?
Well, I grew up on a ranch, and it was an operational ranch, and it was back in the 40s and 50s, and it was like being a real cowboy. We rounded up the animals, we herded them to the pens, we dehorned them, we did all the things you do to cattle, and it was looking back, the 11 years that I spent on the ranch was probably the most influential years that formed the man I am today, I think.
Would you say you have that in your blood?
I certainly do.
Well, then how in the world did you want to be a cardiologist and not a full-time rancher?
Well, it's interesting. As you know, I came to Shreveport as a young man to work with my uncle, Truman Thomas, the anti-pest company, who was an entomologist. And he got me to come there to check cotton. And actually, he had a daughter, and I was more like a son. And so I checked cotton every summer, starting full-time in the summers about age 13 on. And I was at the University of Texas. I ran track at the University of Texas, and there was not a lot of entomology there. And I thought about being a physician, but then I got interested in entomology, and I started working on my master's, and a professor said, "Terry, you need to go to medical school." And I dreamed of that at age 8, to be a physician. I actually thought about it at the early age. Was
cardiology something an early interest, or did you develop that as you went through med school?
No, it was primarily the person that owned our ranch that my daddy rented was a family practitioner. So I thought about that. And then when I went to medical school, I was thinking primarily about being a heart surgeon, and I met Dr. Ochsner, who was chairman of the Department of Pediatrics, and Lynn Harris, who was cardiologist. And I got interested in cardiology in my first year of medical school. And then I shifted over that. I never wavered after that.
And that interest led to the thing that the world knows you for, and that is the King Mills cardiac umbrella,
yes,
which you and Dr. Mills developed
yes,
in the 1970s. It's
Yes.
still in use today, is it not?
Well, it's the concept and the procedure is still in use. The devices are about 13 different devices in the world, but they're based upon a double umbrella. And if you go to my office, you'll see the original double umbrella.
What had you noticed, and we're talking about children, we're talking about pediatric cardiac patients. What had you noticed in these children that you thought, you know, there's a problem here that maybe we can solve?
Well, they want to live. They love to live. And you want to help them live, and you want them to have a healthy, productive life. And interesting enough, when I first thought of why can't we fix hearts with catheters rather than open heart surgery, everybody I talked to said it can't be done because the heart-lung machine was only 20 years old when I thought of this. And so I thought, well, if we could, there were things we were doing that made me think we really could do this. And so what really happened is in the Air Force, a particular patient helped me really finalize my thoughts, and I was thinking about it one morning about 4 o'clock in the morning. What could I put in a catheter that I could pass into the heart that would be small enough, but when I got it there and opened it, it would be big enough to close a hole. And that was, voila, an umbrella. There it was, 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's
simple.
That's quite an epiphany.
That's right.
It sounds simple, but obviously it is extremely delicate and
Yes.
complicated.
Yes.
Did you have some early issues? Was it difficult to develop, or you just had pictured it so well in your mind that once it was out there, it actually worked?
Well, first off, being told it couldn't be done, I had to have a surgeon help me with this. And most surgeons were hard into the heart-lung machine. Mm-hmm. And I was finishing up my Air Force years, and I was having job offers around the United States. And I went to Tulane and interviewed, and then decided that being the country boy I am, I wanted the hills. And I didn't think New Orleans was a place for me. But John Ochsner called me at Lackland Air Force Base at Hospital in Wolford Hall and said, "Terry, we want you to come back and interview at the Ochsner Clinic." And I said, "Dr. Ochsner, I don't think I'm just a country boy," and I meant that sincerely. You know how I am. And he said, "No, come back." And God's had his hand in this all along. And so I went back and met John Ochsner, and during the interview process there, I met Noel Mills. And I asked a surgeon this question. Noel, I said, "Dr. Mills, do you think we can close hearts with catheters?" He said not only did he think he could, he thought for sure it could be done. And he jumped up. He'd been experimenting with disc catheters in adults for infarct VSDs, or holes in between the pump chamber. So that started. I went to the Ochsner Clinic. That's how it happened.
That's how it happened. In working with children primarily, how has that impacted your life?
Well, they give you more than you can ever give them. It's a joy. We don't know for sure how many patients I've actually treated, John, but it's over 300,000. Wow. And I've probably treated in every parish one or more children in the state of Louisiana because I've had 15 clinics around the state. And it's just interesting how pure and open they are about life. And I think we owe it to give it to them.
And I have a feeling you've kept up with some of your patients as they've grown older and as they've moved into adulthood.
Yes.
It must be very satisfying.
Yes, it is. And Nancy and I have a saying, everywhere we go, we got to be nice because we just treated somebody in the family. So it's wonderful to be part of that mini family.
Children have a debt of gratitude for your invention. Adults have a debt of gratitude for the way you were thinking.
Yes, I think they do, and I'm grateful to God that they do.
And you're still practicing today?
Yes. I practice today.
You'll go into the clinic after this interview,
won't you?
And you've already been there. I see what the viewer doesn't know is that today you've had a holiday party. We are around the holidays when we're recording this, and he's already been in with his staff, and he's going back this afternoon.
Yes.
I love that. Although having lived here on Kingsland Ranch as long as you have, I'm sure it's hard to get away, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Did you feel like you had a turning point at any time in your career? Like, obviously the device changed your life dramatically, because tell us about that. Suddenly you go from being this little country doctor to somebody who's going around the world and talking about and explaining and demonstrating the device?
Well, I think there's so many people that contributed to my career that nurtured me, guided me, but there was one particular physician, Dr. Madison Spock, who was head of pediatric cardiology at Duke University. When I went there, I was a fellow. They didn't really have the money for me. I went there as a resident, and I wanted to be a cardiologist. And I was interviewing at UNC and Duke and Johns Hopkins and Boston Children's and Philadelphia Children's for slots. And I went there, got an interview with them, and I met this young cardiologist. I thought he was not much older than I was. His name was Dr. Spock, Madison Spock. And he changed my life. He literally changed my life. He said, when I became a fella, there were all these fellas that were from Harvard and Yale and Stanford, and here goes country bumpkin up from Texas, you know, and I thought, well, whoo, I'm out of place. But he saw something, and he said to me one day, he said, Terry, he said, I want you to do 3 years of fellowship. Nobody had ever done 3 years at that time. And I said, well, I didn't come here to really do 3 years of fellowship, and I don't want to do research. He said, but trust me, do it. And I tell the story, he said, Terry, you're not the brightest color in this box, so I think you need 3 years. And that's what I tell on him. He laughs about this. But he changed my life, because the research I did directly led to the ultimate development of the cardiac umbrellas.
Mm-hmm. Was it difficult at first, going off to Germany or some other country or did you just sort of like, you know, this is just what I do and I can take this in stride?
No, I think I took it in stride.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people should feel good about their hand in this and how it really came to pass. A lot of people made this happen, not just me.
Cardiology today, is it much changed from when you began and when you developed the device? Or do you see any new innovations that are exciting out there?
It's a different world. When I was at Ochsner, I went to Poland in 1978 to help set up the heart program in Krakow, Poland. And there were babies, 2 in a crib, and a surgeon and I, the team was there from Project Hope, and Bill Norwood was from Boston Children, and I was from the clinic, Ochsner Clinic, and the rest of the team was from various parts of the United States. There were two babies in a crib, and we sent babies to surgery without doing heart caths, which we did. I did 5 a day at times at Ochsner with a stethoscope, a chest X-ray, and sent them to heart surgery, and they survived. So the answer is, it's a different world today. In technology, what we do with catheters used to be done with surgery. There's so much that is done that you don't have to have massive surgery anymore. We bypassed a lot of that.
Thank goodness, it's so much less invasive for people.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. And it must be gratifying to think, you know, I was in on the cutting edge of this.
Yeah.
You really were. Now I want to pivot completely from the operating room to the ranch.
Okay.
Because having grown up on a cattle ranch myself, I drove up here today and I felt like I was coming home. The house looked different, but a lot of the cattle looked the same.
Yeah.
So you obviously took your love of ranching from your childhood days and decided at some point you wanted to have your own spread here. Tell me how that evolved.
Well, it went back to my childhood years, and then when I found this place, I knew exactly what I was looking for, and so I left the Ochsner Clinic and came up here to build a program at St. Francis. My father was alive, and he would come. I got 75 acres, and I started, and we've grown it over the years to 850. And my father would come and help me, and we would had a father-son relationship like you would have on the old ranch. And then my sons come along, and the sons, one of my sons runs the ranch, the other one you met today runs our bottling company. And so it just never left my blood. And it's just something about being with nature, something about being with nature that God made the beauty for us to have and to see and to share.
It's a beautiful spread. That's a lot of land. How many cattle are you running now, do you suppose?
It's several hundred cows, calves, and they're different herds and different pastures, but
so
several hundred.
Did you just basically start this as a hobby? Or had you planned even early on that, you know, in addition to what I'm doing medically, we'll have a ranching business as well?
I designed this to be a business from the very first day, and I had Lee Pemberton from Australia, who happened to be here helping one of the Alabama singers, and I've heard of him. I got him here twice, help us lay out the ranch. And we have a lot of water on the ranch, and Louisiana is a great place to grow grass. Cattlemen are not anything but grass growers. We're just grass growers. We can grow grass, we can raise good beef.
We can cut that hay in the summer.
That's right. And so it was really meant to be from the very start.
Yeah. Well, tell us how that has evolved over the years, because I know when I was growing up, it was a little more rudimentary. We were talking just before the interview, you mentioned, for instance, the use of ultrasound.
Yes.
You know, that's just one of the innovations. Expand on that, because that's unusual even to me.
Well, when I was a young man, we were cowboys. We manhandled everything. Now we handle them very gently. Our corrals are all steel. They're curved walls. The corrals are curved so they don't get in corners. And we make our own feed, and we used LSU helped us develop technology with ultrasound. And so when we bring the steers or the young heifers through the squeeze chute, which is automated, hydraulically automated, not like all this,
not like the old days, the old
no,
cranks.
not like that. And my son, we sent him off and got him trained in ultrasound. So we ultrasound early on a lot of animals to see the ribeye size and how much intramuscular fat was in there. And that's how we grew our feed program by technology, using the technology, say that, and if you found a heifer with a particularly nice ribeye size, you didn't sell her and you didn't sacrifice. You put her back in the gene pool to give you more ribeyes. So there was a fair amount of science in this. In the old days, you put them out in the pasture and picked them up once a year in the corral, as you know, and did the spring roundup. And now it's something happens every day on a ranch.
So if somebody wants to sample some Kingsland Ranch beef, tell me how they can get that, because, or can they?
Yes, they can. It's in a number of stores in the region, and I hope our bottling plant water's been approved to get in Brookshires, and I'm hoping to get our beef there, but it's in Max Fresh Markets and a lot of the better strip malls already, and in Ruston, Louisiana.
So, you know, so all of you viewers in other parts of the state, you need to make a Northeast Louisiana trip to get some of this good beef. And you touched on water. Not only are you raising cattle, you're bottling water here. Tell me about the spring.
Well, this area was known years and years ago as Mineral Springs, and I looked, the lake that's the pond, it's a 9.4 acre pond right out in front of the house. We've had 2 estimates of the water coming off that, and it's in excess of 900,000 gallons a day, and we have springs all over this place. And I was thinking, what do I need to do with this water? It's just running off. So a few years ago, I called Dr. Bruno at ULM, and I said, Nick, I've got this water. I need some help. And Nick sent Dr. John Sutherland out here, and we rode around the ranch, and he was really impressed with the spring water. And so we started, and we picked a particular spring, and I made a creek box, an old-timey creek box, and I collected the water, and then I bought a commercial box, which is about $300, and we collected one spring for about 18 months, and it produced 5.25 million gallons of water a year. Then I got to be a junior geologist, and so there's 6 aquifers or so under us, and I thought we'd hit the Whitfield Aquifer, which is about 300 feet. But we had a nice drilling company from Mississippi who drilled 5 wells and picked the 2 best wells, which are about 500 feet from the plant. And we matched the spring water and the aquifer water, and they're both from the same source, and therefore you have spring water, and then we bottled it. And I'll be glad to show you the plant later on this afternoon.
You know what? So viewers, you may not be able to get to see this, but I'll enjoy that tour. This is great. You came here, you know, in the 70s, and you knew this is where you needed to be, but you didn't really know everything that was coming.
No.
on this great land, that you'd get some more, and that's a wonderful thing. You've experienced a lot of successes in your life.
I have.
To what do you think? Is there any one thing or things that you owe those successes to?
God. God.
Your faith is strong.
Yes. I've asked him, I prayed as an 8-year-old, let me be a physician. If he let me be a physician, I'd always do the best I could do. And I hope I've never let him down.
Well, is there anything that you look back and say, I might have done this differently?
Well, sometimes I think had I not left the Ochsner Clinic, would things changed? But I think God leads you where you're supposed to go. And I was asked 5 years ago when I was interviewed before 900 doctors in Frankfurt, Germany, what did I think was my greatest success? And I said, my greatest success occurs every day when I have seeing the children and the families, and I'm part of those families. I don't think there's any greater reward than that, to be part of their family.
Successful indeed. What do you think the next chapter looks like for you?
Well, I think I'm still practicing. I have no plans to retire. The Bible does not mention retirement in it, so I think there's maybe a message there. I think the water business is going well. We're soon to be in Brookshire's. I think I'd like to see that go national, and it's great water. It's good water. It's healthy water, and then I'd like to grow the ranch some more. I'd like to get it up to about 400 mama cows, which is about 1,000 animals out here.
And you're writing your memoirs.
In the final throes of my autobiography. We've been working on every night and putting the pictures in, and Friday I think we'll have the last go around. We get 5 reviews back of the book, and so hopefully it'll go to press sometime after the first of the year.
My goodness. Well, I want to read it, so I'll be looking forward to
I'll
a copy.
send you a
I
copy.
think
You
our
know
viewers
that.
will definitely want to delve into it, because Terry King, you are an exemplar of a life well lived and a man of service, and that's got to give you great pleasure.
Well, I give credit to God again. He gave me 2 wonderful parents. He gave me a very good mind, and I didn't have anything to do with either one of those. And then he gave me unlimited energy and strength, and the tremendous love of learning and history, and the joy of being able to make a difference in people's lives. I'm the benefactor of their joy. And I think that, again, the credit goes to God, because he gave me those talents, and it'd be a sin not to share those talents.
Dr. Terry King, it's been a pleasure again to sit down with you. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Absolutely. And thank you all so much.
For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or go online to www.lpb.org.